Every single year, American companies look at Europe and see an opportunity that feels almost too obvious to pass up. Hundreds of millions of customers, a massive economy, and a culture that, on the surface, doesn't look that different from the one they already know how to sell to. And every single year, some of the most successful, most well-funded companies in America make the same mistake. They fly billions of dollars across the Atlantic, only to be humiliated in ways that should have been entirely preventable. And it's not startups making these rookie mistakes. We're talking about companies that had already conquered America, companies that have research teams that spent years studying these markets before a single dollar was even committed. 3 of these companies are what this video is about. What's remarkable is that every single one of them had every reason to succeed, and what brought them down had nothing to do with the market and everything to do with themselves. The last one on this list is so bad that it almost doesn't even seem real. This is what happens when American confidence meets European reality. To understand why what Domino's did in Italy was so spectacularly misguided, you first have to understand what pizza actually means to the Italian people, because it's not what it means to Americans, and the gap between those two things is basically the entire story. In Italy, pizza isn't just fast food, it isn't just a Friday night convenience, and it isn't something you order because you don't feel like cooking. It's a cultural institution that goes back over 150 years, that has regional variations so specific that Italians from Naples and Italians from Rome will genuinely argue about whose version is correct, and that is protected by its own official governing body, which has a strict rule about the type of flour, the water temperature, the tomatoes, the oven, and about a dozen other things that Domino's has never once thought about in its entire existence. This is the country Domino's decided to move to in 2015, and they didn't go in with a modest pilot program to test the waters or a cautious 10-store trial run to see how Italians responded to the product. They announced a target of 880 locations across the country, which is the kind of number that tells you exactly how much confidence they had going in and exactly how little research they had done before they got there. 880 stores in the one country in the entire world where the thing you are selling is not just already done better by everyone else around you, but is considered a point of genuine national pride by the people you are trying to sell it to. Italian food writers didn't just review Domino's badly, they treated the whole thing as an affront. Social media filled up with Italians posting side-by-side comparisons of Domino's pizza next to what you would get from any random pizzeria within walking distance. And the comparisons were not flattering. But here's the part of the story that goes deeper than just Italians having good taste. Domino's entire business model, the thing that makes them successful in America, isn't really about pizza at all. The whole value proposition is that you want hot food at your door quickly and conveniently, and pizza is just the most practical vehicle for getting that done. In suburban America, that gap genuinely exists because your options are for fast, cheap, delivered food are pretty limited, and Domino's fills that gap really well. In Italy, that gap does not exist in any meaningful way. Every single Italian city, every town, every neighborhood has a pizzeria within a few minutes walk, usually a family-run place that has been there for generations, where a slice of fresh pizza costs 1 or 2 euros and is ready before you finish paying for it. The idea that an Italian consumer would look at that option and then decide to order from an American chain and wait 30 minutes instead is just not how that country works, and any serious market research would have made that obvious before Domino's spent a single dollar on Italian real estate. And then 2020 happened. The pandemic locked Italy down harder and longer than almost anywhere else in Europe, and while that hurt every food business in the country, it did something specific to Domino's that was basically fatal. It forced every other Italian food business to start doing delivery immediately, and they did, because Italian restaurant owners are resourceful people who weren't about to let their business die if they could help it. Apps like Deliveroo and Glovo went from popular to completely dominant almost overnight, and suddenly every local pizzeria, every neighborhood spot that had been serving the same families for 20 years was delivering food directly to people's doors. The one thing Domino's could do that local competitors couldn't, bring food to your door, was now something literally everyone could do, and they could do it with better food for less money and from a place that the customer already trusted and loved. By the summer of 2022, the last Domino's in Italy closed. 29 restaurants across the whole country. They never got within 1,000% of their 880 store location target. 7 years of operation, tens of millions of dollars spent, and at the end of it all, it is generally one of the most avoidable corporate failures in modern business history, and the most remarkable thing about it is that at no point in the entire 7-year run does it seem like anyone inside the company stepped back and asked one question that should have been asked before any of this started. Why would Italy need this? Now, Best Buy in 2010 was the kind of company that made other companies nervous just by existing. The biggest consumer electronics retailer on the planet. Over 1,000 stores across the US, billions in revenue, and a brand so recognizable that when Americans think about buying a TV or laptop, Best Buy was definitely the place everybody thought of. And they took that big box retail format and turned it into one of the most successful retail operations in American history. But Best Buy, they wanted more, and the United Kingdom looked like the perfect next move. They had a big economy, was English speaking, and culturally close to America in a way that most of Europe isn't. They also had a consumer electronics market worth tens of billions of dollars that Best Buy felt had a gap in it. Nobody was doing the big box electronics experience the way they did it back home, and they genuinely believed that British consumers were just waiting for someone to come in and give it to them. They didn't come in quietly. They paid $1.3 billion to acquire a 50% stake in Carphone Warehouse, one of the biggest mobile phone retailers in the country, and announced plans to open over 200 stores across Britain. 200 stores, that was the vision. That's what they told investors, and that's what they told the press, and built their entire strategy around it. But get this, they actually only ended up opening 11. And now, here's the thing about Britain that Best Buy either didn't know or didn't take seriously enough. The way British people shop is fundamentally different from the way Americans shop. And it's different in a way that makes the entire big box format feel kind of alien over there. America is built around the car, built around the space, built around the idea you drive 20 minutes to a retail park in a lot the size of a small town, and spend an afternoon walking around a store that's bigger than most British apartment buildings. That infrastructure exists in America because America has the land and the urban planning to support it. Britain doesn't work like that. British cities are dense and old and built around walking and public transport, and the high street, the local shopping street with smaller stores, is where British retail culture actually lives. So when Best Buy started opening these enormous American-style big box stores in out-of-the-way locations that required driving to get to, they weren't just offering a different shopping experience. They were asking British consumers to completely change their behavior. And even if British consumers had been willing to make that adjustment, Best Buy made one more miscalculation that turned a bad situation into a catastrophic one. Their timing was about as wrong as it could possibly be. They entered the UK market in 2010, which is almost the exact same moment that Amazon UK became the dominant force in British electronics retail. The same year that buying a television by driving to a giant store was already starting to feel like something your parents did. Amazon was making it so easy to buy that same television from your couch for less money with free delivery that the whole entire premises of what Best Buy was offering started to look outdated before they'd even finished setting up. They had built a business model perfectly designed for 2003 and launched it in 2010. And the market had absolutely no patience for it. By 2011, less than a year after opening, every single Best Buy store in the United Kingdom had closed its doors permanently. 11 stores, gone in under 12 months at a total cost of around $320 million. When you break it down, it works out to around $29 million per store for a single year of operation, which is the kind of number that makes you wonder what exactly was happening in those boardroom meetings when someone first proposed the whole thing. Best Buy said afterward that the timing was bad, that the economy was still recovering from the 2008 financial crisis, and consumers were cautious with their spending. And while that is true, the economy was rough, but Currys were still open, John Lewis was still selling televisions, Amazon was doing just fine. The economy wasn't what killed Best Buy. What killed it was the assumption that a format built for suburban America would just naturally translate to a completely different country with a completely different retail culture. And that assumption cost them $320 million to find out was wrong. By 1997, Walmart was basically untouchable. We're talking the largest retailer in American history, over $100 billion in annual revenue, stores in every single state, and a business model that's so dominant that entire chains give up trying to compete. This was a company that basically cracked the code on retail and have been printing money with that formula for decades. And when they looked at Germany, they saw exactly what they wanted to see, a market worth hundreds of billions of dollars a year that nobody had seriously disrupted yet. And Walmart didn't just ease into it slowly, they went all in immediately, acquiring 2 entire German supermarket chains in one move, and woke up one morning owning 85 stores overnight. And then everything started going wrong. The first thing they did was station greeters at the entrance of every store. Friendly employees whose whole job was to smile, say hello, and make customers feel welcome the way they do back home in Arkansas. In America, that works great. People love it, it's warm and it's personal, and it fits the culture perfectly. In Germany, Customers thought it was bizarre. One newspaper described the greeters as creepy. People were actively avoiding the stores because a stranger smiling at them on the way in felt invasive rather than friendly. And that right there should have told Walmart everything they needed to know about what was coming next. Because it wasn't just about the greeters. They tried to run the same store hours they used to back home and found out that German law simply didn't allow it. Every single assumption they'd packed into their suitcase from Bentonville hit a wall the moment it landed in Germany. And underneath all of these cultural missteps was a much more fundamental problem that no amount of cultural sensitivity training was going to fix. Germany already had the best discount retailers on the planet, and they had been perfecting that model for decades before Walmart even showed up. Aldi and Lidl didn't just understand how the German consumer worked, they basically built the entire German consumer's experience. So when Walmart tried to compete with them on price, they were fighting on home turf of the two companies that invented the game they were trying to play. It got so bad that the German government actually stepped in and ordered Walmart to raise its prices because the aggressive undercutting was being considered anti-competitive. A government telling an American retailer that their prices were too low is not a sentence that makes sense in any American context, but that's exactly what happened. And it basically tells you everything about how badly Walmart has misread the entire situation from day one. And by 2006, after 9 years of consecutive losses, they sold all 85 stores to a local German chain and walked away with a bill of just under $1 billion. The wildest part is that none of these companies went away. Walmart is still the biggest retailer on earth, Best Buy still has over 1,000 stores in America, Domino's is still delivering pizza to everyone who isn't Italian. They absorbed the losses, wrote them off, and kept moving, which maybe says more about the scale of American corporate power than anything else in the story. But somewhere in Europe, a boardroom full of Americans is looking at a map right now and thinking they finally cracked it, and they definitely haven't.